Now, Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
Hey, tomorrow, Super Duper Tuesday. And if you live in the Commonwealth of Virginia, it's time to go to the polls. Although I must say, there's not a lot of drama there about how things are going to turn out because Mitt Romney's on the ballot, and so is Ron Paul, but Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum are not. So it looks like if the polling is correct, it'll be a runaway for Romney in the Commonwealth. But Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling, who I believe I'm correct in saying is a supporter of Mitt Romney, is on the line right now. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Brian. I'm doing well.
Well, welcome to the Morning on the Mall with Brian and Brian, and we want to ask you about why you have decided to support Mitt Romney.
Well, I had the privilege of chairing Governor Romney's campaign for president in Virginia back in 2008, and I did that because I felt he was the best candidate to carry our party's banner into that election, the right person to lead the country into the future. Over the course of the years in between 2008 and now, I've gotten to know Governor Romney a lot better, and I believe even more strongly that he's the best candidate that the Republican Party could put up. I think the only Republican candidate who has any chance of defeating President Obama in November. And I continue to think he's the right person to lead the country with his background, not just in government and politics, but more importantly, the private sector and the business community. I think he understands what we need to do to get the economy moving again and create jobs. That's the most important issue facing the country today, and I think Governor Romney's just uniquely qualified to do that. So I'm delighted to chair his campaign again and looking forward to the primaries tomorrow.
The only candidate with any chance to beat Barack Obama, really? You don't think Rick Santorum has any chance?
Oh, no, no chance at all.
Why?
I don't think former Senator Santorum has any chance of beating President Obama. I don't think former Speaker Gingrich has any chance of beating President Obama. I don't think Ron Paul has any chance of beating President Obama. It's not to say that these aren't good guys, that they don't have a good story to tell. But look, I mean, it's just time for Republicans to start being serious here. Mission number one is beating President Obama.
But why isn't
you have to reach the independent voter? Rick Santorum is not going to do that. Ron Paul or Newt Gingrich, they're not going to do that. Mitt Romney is the only candidate that can do that. And if Republicans are serious about winning in November, now's the time that we need to start rallying behind a candidate who can actually win in November.
Is it because of social issues that Rick Santorum can't win? I mean, I just want to drill down a little bit deeper on why you think that he would have a tough time, winning in a general election against Barack Obama.
Well, first of all, I don't think that a good calling card is vote for me because I lost my last election by 18 points.
Well, I mean, Mitt Romney lost a lot of elections as well.
But he also won his last election as governor.
Well, he didn't win in 2008.
And the issues that Santorum are talking about just aren't issues that are going to play with independent voters in November. And, you just look at Virginia. I think Virginia is a good example of a lot of swing states across this country. Mm-hmm. And I try to tell my fellow Republicans this all the time. There aren't enough Republicans in Virginia to elect anybody to anything. There aren't enough Democrats in Virginia to elect anybody to anything. Elections in our state are won by independent voters, and they're won by candidates who can appeal to those independent voters. And you appeal to those independent voters by talking about the economy and jobs, making government smaller and smarter, not, frankly, by talking about a lot of the other more divisive issues that have been the hallmarks of the Santorum campaign. It's just not going to work in Virginia. It's not going to work in other swing states. It's not to say, again, that Mr. Santorum's not a fine guy, very passionate guy, very capable guy. I just don't think he's a candidate that can beat Barack Obama. And if we're serious about defeating Barack Obama, we need to nominate a candidate who can do that.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Bolling, you are, the man who sits at the head of the Senate when there is a tie and casts the deciding vote. And some Democrats have said, well, you're not paying enough attention and paying due homage to the facts that it is a uniquely divided, right down the middle Senate. And I'd just sort of like to know what it's like to be in that position of being the guy who comes in and makes the final decisions at times when it's close, and it has been close.
Well, one of the things, Brian, that I think sometimes people don't focus on in Virginia is that for every one issue that we get that becomes a partisan issue, that becomes a 2020 divisive issue within the Senate, there are 100, 200, 300 issues that go through the legislature on a very bipartisan basis. Despite the conflicts that there may have been this year over a couple of issues that got a lot of visibility, or over the budget impasse right now, which is the biggest issue we have to deal with in this last week of the legislature, most of the work of the General Assembly has been done on a bipartisan basis. Now, in those instances where there become partisan divides or ideological divides, certainly the pressure's been ratcheted up on me a little bit this year because I am the tie-breaking vote. And that when you make these votes and you have to come down on one side or another of these issues, that in some ways it may help you, in some ways it may hurt you, but that's what you get. That's what you get paid to do. So, by and large, I think the session has gone pretty well for us. We're very focused right now in this last week on trying to reach some sort of a budget agreement. That's the most important issue we'll deal with this year. I hate it that right now that's being held up on the basis really of partisan politics, not on the basis of any substantive policy matters. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to break through that. And if we can, I think when we look back, there are going to be a lot of good things that we've been able to get accomplished during this year's session of the General Assembly.
Last question. I know that there's been a lot of controversy about who's on the ballot and who's not on the ballot. Certain people didn't get enough signatures, whatever. But here's what I don't understand, and I may be wrong about this, but are you allowed to write in a candidate tomorrow on the ballot tomorrow in Virginia?
Yeah, you cannot.
You cannot.
You cannot. No, Virginia state law does not permit write-in candidates on a presidential ballot. So,
do you think that needs to be changed? Because it seems.
Well, no. I mean, we have a petition process in our state that requires candidates to get a certain number of petitions in order to get on the ballot. If you then turn around and allow write-in ballots, it undermines the whole purpose of the petition process. So, it would be great if we had all the candidates on the ballot tomorrow. It would have made our primary more interesting from a national perspective.
Well,
but,
very quickly though, is the bar too high? Is it too difficult to get on the ballot in the state?
No,
of the
I don't think the problem was that the bar's too high. People have been able to reach these thresholds for years in lots of different campaigns. The problem was that we had a number of campaigns that weren't focused on Virginia. They weren't organized in Virginia, and they didn't get their job done. So, I'd like to see all the candidates on the ballot, but the bottom line is there were only two candidates that got the job done. That was Governor Romney and Congressman Paul. And, these other candidates, despite all the grumping and griping and complaining, they have no one to blame for that but themselves.
All right. Governor Bolling, great to have you on. Thanks very much.
Okay, guys. See you soon.